All right, DTE, damaged truss or timber evaluation. So this engineering service is for when the partner is in the attic, and typically in the attic, and they see something that doesn't look quite right. It's usually cut members of a truss or roofing system, cut rafters, um, joist, problems, or just like DIY scabbed on pieces of timber in the attic that from a sagging roof or some issue related to an installation of the air conditioner where things were just hammered out of place. Um, DTEs are pretty easy for the partner to gather information. I think I'll start by just showing you an example of a DTE. Here's one. I don't have the your logo here, but your logo is usually here. And then this DTE is just the same as your other reports. It's got an executive summary. It's going to show you or tell you pretty quickly what the conclusion is from me, the engineer, in as layman terms as we can. And then it will walk through exactly what was done. It will showcase pictures of the truss system or what we discovered, and then it will provide a repair. The repairs are kind of drawn up in this fashion where we show you the member where we see problems, deflection, bowing, cracking, splitting, missing or inadequate bracing, things like that. And then we show you the fix. And we sometimes will even get into a more detailed fix like this one, where we actually show you what specific members need to be tacked together, gusset plates, replacements, sizing of members, and things like that. So these are simple drawings that we provide. Nothing like, a CAD level detail. And, sometimes this can be used for permitting, typically not. This is really good for a project where you've got a client that is concerned with members in the attic that don't quite look right, and they're concerned about buying the home. And then they want to know, to what level of fix is necessary and how to fix the problem in an adequate way. We provide all kinds of other types of graphics, like, for example, let me show you some DTE figures. There's all kinds of different types of graphics that we could show you. And so we're able, I guess what I'm saying is we're able to, deal with all kinds of different types of configurations for whatever project you see. So, and I say that because it's not just about trusses, although the word truss is used, to define kind of this triangular system of cords and members kind of arranged. But, it can actually just be general framing. That's why we use the word timber, because, a lot of trusses are manufactured, brought on site, installed, and you can't notch them, and you have specific manufacturer's requirements. Whereas other, more traditionally framed up homes are going to be, still trusses, but they're going to be, built on site, assembled in a different way, and they're going to look a little different. And so there's just different elements to it. So the DTE, the actual, if I go and add a project into the app, create the project, we'll go and add a DTE. You'll notice that there's no support documents required, and we just need a report. Project details is always there. It's going to be the same information we've gone over: client name, year build, weather, foundation types, and then the damage truss evaluation. In here, we're going to ask for the photos on the damaged truss, which can include where you are. We need a floor plan scan. We need whether or not it's a truss damage or timber damage. We need to know where is the damage located, and the purpose of the resolution. So are you just trying to determine the severity of the problem? Do you need a actual resolution? And then we kind of ask you to get into the amount of damage that's present. So we need you to basically document with photos. So if you select single member, you're going to get a option to take photos of the damage. And so you want to give us how many members there are in the general location of the damage. We're going to ask that you take and document a lot of photos, some far, some we want you to take far photos. We want you to take close-up photos. If it's a crack, then take a picture of the crack, zoom out, take a picture of the attic, maybe even Inspectora or most home inspection softwares, you can put a box around the location so we can see it. We need, I, as the engineer, have to really determine what the damage is and how to fix it. And it's really hard if we just see pictures of a crack. I don't know how big it is. I don't know where it is in relation to the other members. We're trying to get what we're trying to do is get a gauge on safety factors. Is this in a real critical area of the home where there's not a lot of support and we damaged one? Or is this in an area where, my gosh, we've got all kinds of supports, you could take out half these members and this building would stand? So that's kind of the angle that I'm getting at. And so we also want you to put some weight on the damage. And that sounds weird. It sounds like I'm asking you to be unsafe, but typically what we'll see is bowing and deflection in the areas where we have this damage. And I want, at as safe as you can do it, to approach the damage condition and to decide whether or not you see an active, bowing condition with you putting your weight close to or at the point of the problem. This could look like you going over to the damage and kind of putting some weight on the member itself where the crack is, putting some weight on the ceiling, ceiling joist if you see there's a notch or a cut where there's a problem, or going on the roof and pinpointing the area of concern and seeing if there's a soft spot or a spot where bowing and deflection is occurring because of the problem. So give us your general assessment, which if you go back, you'll see that there is a conclusion section. This conclusion section kind of asks you if you think it needs repair or not. And then because of that, even adding more photos if you want, because we're going to ask you, it's going to help me to determine if you think it needs repair. Some of these repairs, are self explanatory, or I want to hear your opinion. Most home inspectors have construction background and can look at a problem very similar to how I would look at a problem and determine whether or not something needs to be fixed. The goal of this, and a lot of these, are to just make the client feel like to really give the client a very good sense that the problem that they're seeing is not of concern, or it is of concern, and what the fix would be. And what the fix would be is probably maybe 20% or 30% of our DTEs right now. Most of the DTEs that we get requests for problems are modifications made to the construction in the attic, some things that were DIY, cut members that, okay, they cut a member, but we still don't think that it's a structural integrity problem, things like that. So we can provide clarity, we can provide a conclusion, and we can make sure that the home inspector who called out maybe needing an engineer gets an answer so that they can move on with the real estate transaction, knowing that the problem is not as severe as maybe they thought that it was. Again, in the ones that we do provide a solution, most of the time those solutions are, a guy who's nose framing up there in the attic for a few hours, fixing some of the issues, and the cost associated with the fix is not severely high. Where do we draw the line with this? It's difficult to say. I mean, most of the time these are pretty self-explanatory, but kind of like with load-bearing wall, if you go up in the attic and you're like, oh my gosh, they cut every single rafter all the way down the roof to get this AC in, maybe call me or call our team and ask if there's something specific that we need you to gather, or if there's something different, or maybe we reject the project. It's too big. Get a local engineer in there to actually investigate and go on site and investigate the problem and provide a fix. So It's not very often we reject these, but you know, just like with everything we've talked about, the severity of the problem is something that should be considered anytime you're going to kind of throw an engineering evaluation our way, and we want you to take that into consideration. Okay, that's damage, truss, trust and timber evaluations. See you in the next video.